Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday, where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Good for Bitcoin. It's a weekly show where we talk about all good things that are happening on Bitcoin. My name is Brandon, social media manager here at Trust Machines. Joined this week by Jayson, who is our marketing manager, also at Trust Machines. Jayson, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Glad to be here for round two. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, round two. You were here last week. We had Shaylee here last week. Everybody's just so busy lately that we haven't been able to have the whole team together in a little while now. But I think next week we're going to have
Something
everybody
tells
back.
me that's going to change. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but lots of good things happening behind the scenes. So for all very good reasons, people are busy for good reasons.
Well, it's the start of event season, so like for anybody in this space, like is well aware, but anybody who's just getting into Bitcoin, getting into Web3, event season starts right now. I mean, March is the start of it, and we go through the summer, so we're gonna have a lot of them coming up. We had DOS, which I'm sure you'll have some stuff to talk about there on today's episode. And what comes next? We got like Consensus, we got Bitcoin Vegas, we got so many this year. It's exciting.
Yeah, it was a few weeks ago, I think, when Longstreet and Kate were both on, and we were talking about, I forget which event it was, but it was like, that was the event that kind of feels like it kicks off like conference season in the US.
Denver,
so yeah,
probably?
we're in the thick of it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So yeah, lots of news to go through this week, but I guess overall, just how was your week, Jayson?
Week's been great. I always say like it's fun when people are at events because great for us to be at events to be networking and everything else. But for us on the marketing side, it's a chance to catch up. It's a chance to do the building, do the deep work. So we've had a really good week of deep work. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, that's definitely nice. We've
it's
talked
the pro
about
to
this
staying
recently.
at home, right? Yeah,
exactly. Everybody else is out like doing conferences and stuff, and you get to just like be home and work
check
without
off the
like
sauna
being
tasks. It's wonderful.
Yeah, not as many meetings, and yeah, you can just get some solid work done. So yeah, lots of preparation happening for Trust Machines products. So more to come there, but yeah, lots of stuff. Yeah, let's just get right into it. We usually start off the show talking about some different news happening in the public company space. We have a new addition to the public company Bitcoin strategy, treasury, whatever, this week, which is Atai Life Sciences. They are a publicly traded biotech firm focused on mental health, and they have announced a $5 million Bitcoin treasury strategy, which is very cool. So more and more public companies adopting Bitcoin treasuries. I read through, there was the chairman of Atai, his name is Christian Angermeyer. He had like a really long blog post where he like kind of laid out the thesis behind why, and especially sort of compared Bitcoin's performance to XBI, which is a biotech index, and Bitcoin has like, obviously, I mean, Bitcoin's pretty much outperformed anything.
Yeah.
But, when you look at like, I guess, relative to like biotech, growth, Bitcoin certainly exceeded that. And he also talked about his belief that Bitcoin will soon surpass gold's market cap, which would be like a 13x increase from here in price. So
I'm not a markets guy. I'm not a markets guy, Brandon. Like not financial advice, but it always excites me when these type of people from other sectors like health tech and everything start to really invest and do a deep dive into Bitcoin. It gives us so many different proof points of what we've been saying and sitting on shows like this talking about. It just expands it. So it makes me excited. So it's great to hear stuff like this. I want a running chart on this show. I think from like last time you had the great graph. I want to just keep seeing that graph grow and grow.
Yeah, we'll have to reference that each week. But I think reading through his blog post, I think one thing that's important is like they're not trying to be like a MicroStrategy, right? Where they're mostly just like a Bitcoin holding company with like a little side hustle of being an analytics like BI firm.
Right.
They're just doing it as kind of their basic risk management diversification sort of strategy, and they're now integrating Bitcoin into it.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't.
I think we're going to see them a lot more of that, right? It's not a big deal as much, right? We're acquiring a little bit of Bitcoin as an inflation hedge, and that's what we're doing.
1,000%. Like, I totally agree with that. I feel like we talk about abstraction a lot when we're talking about L2s and we're talking about scaling some of this stuff, but like, we don't talk a lot about abstracting from the kind of strategic reserve, the investment side, the hedging against inflation. But we win when we're just another, entity amongst others in a diverse portfolio for every type of sector. And so I love that conversation. We need to have that more.
Yeah, they're acquiring Bitcoin, but they're not making Bitcoin their personality, basically, which is nice.
Bitcoin doesn't always have to be the most exciting thing in the room. I understand that.
It is on this show, but yeah.
We want it to
the
be
real world.
It should be, yeah. Exactly. Sometimes we win by getting to show up.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't talk about public companies acquiring Bitcoin without talking about strategy. So this week, they broke their dry streak, I guess, of not acquiring Bitcoin for several weeks. I guess we talked them into it on the show last week, and they bought 130 Bitcoin this past week.
Lucky 130.
They're still under 500K. 499,226 Bitcoin is now how much they are holding.
And if anybody hasn't seen, I know Michael Saylor was just at DAS, the Digital Asset Summit in New York. It was a great speech. I'm sure they have it up on their YouTube, or we can, provide clips and stuff. But it was anybody who wants to feel bullish on Bitcoin, it's worth a watch.
Yeah. Saylor's always kind of he's good at those like getting people fired up kind of Bitcoin speeches.
He knows what to say. Yeah, absolutely.
Strategy also announced this perpetual preferred stock offering, STRF, which they pronounce as Strife. And basically it's going to be available to like institutional investors. It's basically going to allow them to acquire even more Bitcoin. So people are going to buy this STRF and they're going to take the proceeds from that and then, use it to buy more Bitcoin. Actually, this morning they announced that they upsized the deal from 500 million to 722 million. So we could see them buying that much Bitcoin in the near future, whenever this goes live. I think it was like a few months from now or something like that.
Sailor watch. Keep it going.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll keep an eye out. They're continuing to acquire more Bitcoin, of course, and they're continuing to find more weird ways of doing it. So
I'm all for it. Strategy. I love it. I'm all for it. I love the fact that they're inspiring other companies to do the same. It's not just a take advantage of being early situation for strategy. It's really like leading the pack of what should be happening.
Yeah, I mean, Saylor's out there talking at conferences. He's joining, Microsoft board meetings, advocating for, having company strategies, right? So definitely doing a lot of good work out there. One thing, I saw this story yesterday. I thought it was really interesting. I wanted to pull up this graph and have us talk a little bit about this, if I can share my screen correctly. So on mempool.space, basically there was this news story that came out yesterday that transaction fees made up just 1.3% of the total block rewards in February, which was their lowest since October of 2022. And then March, this month, is trading even lower at 1.12% of block rewards. So we can really see it in the chart here, just how much Bitcoin transaction fees have fallen since their peak, back in, the beginning of 2024. That was really when we saw, BRC20 really start to kick off. Runes, kicked off early last year as well. And we've definitely seen those markets die down quite a bit since then. They were driving a lot of that transaction activity happening on Bitcoin. So I think it's definitely worth highlighting. We saw, when that was happening during kind of this peak kind of BRC20 craze on Bitcoin, you were seeing transaction fees were actually exceeding the block rewards that miners were receiving. So it was a really healthy market, where you were seeing a future where transactions would sustain, miners after we go through more and more halvings and the block rewards get lower and lower and lower. But, if the halving were to, happen today, a lot of miners would probably be pretty underwater. It's not scheduled to happen until April 2028, where the block reward will decrease from 3.125, which it is right now, to 1.5625 BTC in around April 2028 or so. But just pretty interesting to see, the effect, one, that ordinals kind of has had on the Bitcoin market, and also kind of the L2 kind of craze that we saw last year compared to what we're seeing so far this year. Pretty big difference.
Yeah, and honestly, also side note, Brandon, either your head math is like so good or you have great notes because I would not
I
have
do
been
have
able
great
to.
notes.
Okay, great. I was like doing the math in my head. It's like there's no way I can do that this fast. I need more coffee. No, I'm with you on this. It's interesting, right? Because it's almost like a proof point to what we've been preaching when it comes to utilizing Bitcoin L2s and really taking advantage of things happening like the ordinals and runes kind of crazes. It's like transaction fees are so helpful for the long term of this environment, this ecosystem. And this was a proof point, obviously. You can't deny what we're seeing in front of our face here. But it doesn't negate the fact that because of that interest, there's, I mean, what is Stacks, I think, number 7 in most developers, most builders coming into the ecosystem. Growth is happening. So even if you're not seeing it in transaction data, because of what happened here at this peak, we've seen a longer tail at the L2, which is exciting. Or not even at the L2, but at the L1 too, with things like OpCat support and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think in the very far future, we're going to see a lot of L2s competing for transactions on the L1 versus regular people, all the time competing for transactions on the L1. I made a tweet just the other day. I moved some SBTC from one wallet to another, and it literally took like 5 seconds to move, and it cost me like 1/10 of a penny to do it, which is just incredible. Like it's still pretty amazing to think about how just how fast and cheap Nakamoto has made moving Bitcoin around on Stacks. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, that's definitely what we're going to be seeing in the future.
Yeah, totally agree. Same transaction 2 years ago, totally different price. I love that.
Yeah, it would have been like $200 or something to move it.
Yeah, deep discount.
Yeah, something crazy like that for sure. This is probably, I think, the biggest story of the week, maybe one of the biggest, but I think it's pretty impactful, which is OFAC officially removing Tornado Cash from its sanction list. This doesn't, I guess, specifically touch Bitcoin, but it's just a huge win for the entire industry. This came after the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled to unban Tornado Cash in December. We talked about it then, but now it's officially sort of happened that they've removed Tornado Cash. All the kind of smart contracts that were previously flagged as sanctioned have all been removed. Our legal friends would say that the ruling, when it happened, was not a approval of Tornado Cash, but it was just like a sort of decriminalization of it, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Saying that they were unlawful. I'm not quite sure, what this means for, the ruling happened in December and it was removed today. I wonder what would happen like if somebody had used Tornado Cash between then and now. Maybe like a gray area. I don't know. More of a legal question. I don't think.
I think it's totally like a legal question. Yeah, but I think it's
pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think that's totally a gray area question, and we're seeing that a lot with just the fast-moving nature of things going on in the U.S. policy space right now. It's an interesting one, right? It's like I haven't dug in with anybody who's on the legal side of this, and I would love to. It'd be great to get someone's take on the tornado situation here. But these are all just steps forward to what we kind of expected to start seeing from this new administration. So it's a signal that there's like serious intent to move forward in a positive way for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a good reminder that like privacy is kind of more of a human right? The right to privacy. Just because you want your transactions to be private doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing bad or illegal things. It's a tool, right? Somebody can use a Apple computer to hack into somebody's database, right? That doesn't mean that Apple is liable for that. And, similar kind of ruling, I guess, with Tornado Cash, right? People may use it for nefarious things. That doesn't mean that the protocol itself is nefarious or, illegal. So they're taking kind of a similar stance there.
And it's a narrative as old as this industry, right? It goes back to even Ross and Silk Road. It's a constant struggle between how much is the platform versus the users of the platform held accountable for some of these things. So without scaring builders away from the US, like it's good to see like that we're moving in directions where we're supporting development and innovation first.
Absolutely. Well, kind of on a similar note, just with getting a little bit more clarity for US based workers here, the SEC has released a statement on certain proof of work mining activities. So they basically provided a little bit of clarity this week, which is, what people are always asking for from the SEC. The Division of Corporate Finance provided its views on proof of work mining. Obviously, Bitcoin is within that purview, and basically just confirmed that proof of work mining, both solo mining and then mining in like a pool, are not securities. So just, it's kind of like something that we all know, right? Like we kind of know that Bitcoin is not a security and doing some of these actions are not. But to get that sort of official statement from something like the SEC saying like, yes, these are not securities is definitely a really big deal.
It's a big deal for sure. I know it's not the news crypto Twitter wanted this week from the policy side. I think everybody was looking for capital gains tax news coming out of DOS, but I like this one. I like any moment where the SEC is coming and saying like the way you're thinking about it's the right way, and so it shows that advocating, education, like all these things we've been doing, do pay off even if slowly. And I say slowly, Brandon, but like I got to remind myself too, like you and I both have been in crypto and Web3 for a long time now, but like this industry moves about 10 times faster than every other industry. So when I say it's like it feels like it's slow, or when we say it feels like it's slow, I got to remember that it takes like 10 to 20 years for the simplest of things in traditional finance or other places.
Yeah, if it's not happening on chain, it's slow.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Yep. Yeah. On that note, you mentioned, DOS. I think a lot of people there was news that like Trump was going to be making some video or some like speech there. And I don't know if you watched like his like 3-minute pre-recorded video. He didn't really like announce anything new at all.
Okay.
It was sort of just like reinforcing, certain kind of talking points about Bitcoin. He mentioned that he wanted to make the US the undisputed Bitcoin superpower and crypto capital of the world in that video. It's pretty cool. They were talking about this was the first I don't know what if we want to call it a speech, because he wasn't like there in person. It was like a pre-recorded video, but it was the first time in history that a sitting president has addressed a crypto conference, and that was what the headlines were saying.
There's one spin on it, yeah, for sure. As a person who does marketing, I take offense to virtual. Anytime you can do virtual, like let us all do virtual or be in person. No, I love when people are in person. There's a different vibe. There's a different energy. I know in Nashville when he came in person, there was a different energy to the whole city because they knew it leveled up to a different space, a different conversation, more mainstream, more nationwide impact. I didn't watch it truthfully because I kind of assumed, Brandon, that it was exactly what you said. Kind of par for the course what you'd expect from a pre-record like that. But nonetheless, really cool to see. Really cool to see that. Really cool to see everything happening at DOS. Like I said, from Saylor really making emboldened statements and passionate statements to keep building reserves for Bitcoin, to just everything Jayson Yanowitz at Blockworks and Mike and that team are doing. Like that's such a great event for the industry.
Yeah, New York is just such a hub for crypto. So very cool to have an event like that happening there.
Hopefully it gets back to that too. Like it's been sad. Like when I first started in the industry, we had consensus in New York, and then it's bounced around. It was in Texas last year, right? Yeah, Austin, Texas last year. It's in Toronto this year. And we've grown, but like I miss the New York events. Like give me a really good New York crypto event.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, kind of a bit of a slow news week, I guess, this week. We have one final story, which is one of the two kind of bigger stories after the OFAC news, which is the Office of the Controller of the Currency, the OCC, removing references to reputation risk in their sort of handbooks and guidelines and things like that. For those that don't know, I had to kind of look it up as well just to get an official definition of what the OCC actually does. They are a U.S. government agency that regulates and supervises national banks to ensure that they operate safely and follow laws, which is, on the surface, a good thing. You definitely want that. But the problem was these kind of reputational risk and things that they were talking about in their guidelines basically almost advised banks to beware of their own reputational risk when it comes to banking certain clients or certain industries. So, when we look at things like Operation Choke Point 2.0, crypto companies and all sorts of people getting debanked. This could have been kind of a method of not banking clients, right? If they're like, oh, I don't want to take on the risk, even if they have the money and they, financially are, in a good place. Just the fact that this industry, had kind of this scarlet letter on it almost from the banks, gave them sort of reason enough to not bank them. So these rules basically, or these guidelines have been removed now. I'll read a quote here. They said the OCC's examination process has always been rooted in ensuring appropriate risk management processes for bank activities, not casting judgment on how a particular activity may fare with public opinion. So pretty strong. They really highlighted that in their statement. They said that they never have solely, judged a company or a client based on just the reputational risk alone, but just the fact that this stuff is in there was potentially really damaging. So very, very cool to see this just get removed and kind of open the doors for not just crypto, right? There could be like any flavor of the month, whatever industry is, kind of out of favor, I guess. Even if you don't personally care for it, people have a right to be banked. So it's really nice that these rules are kind of going away and enabling these people to have bank accounts, which is super important.
Yeah, it's just cleaning up the process. I mean, you're right. You got to follow innovation where it is, and it can kind of spike up everywhere. So having the clarity there is so helpful. I've seen it time and time again in this industry where we've had issues where great projects are doing everything right, and then they run into these roadblocks. So this is another one of those signals that we just need the cleaner approach. I will say I was watching, and this is kind of an anecdote, but I was watching something. There was Mr. Beast did this Beast Games reality TV show where he gave away $5 million or something like that, or $10 million to a winner. And they were interviewing the winner of the $10 million, and he goes, I deposited in, he's San Francisco based, I deposited the money straight into a San Francisco bank account, $10 million, just straight in. He goes, nobody reached out to me. Nobody questioned it. Nobody said hey, how do you want to utilize this? Here's strategies to make something of your money. And so when I think about traditional banks, that was really powerful to me earlier this week, because it's something that DeFi, Bitcoin DeFi and stuff like that opens up for people. And traditional banks aren't yet doing it after all this time. That's a lot of money for somebody to come into and then want to learn how to put to use, and nobody puts it to use. So long-winded way to say these are just very, very baseline things, Brandon, that we're providing a cleaner approach to. So hopefully, the next stage gets to be these cooler innovations, being able to shine for TradFi, for traditional banking.
Yeah,
I mean, that's pie in the sky.
No, I mean, that it really underscores just the financial literacy overall, I think, in the US and probably just around the world in general. We don't get taught a lot of this stuff in school, right? I've learned so much about finance and technology and politics and all this stuff through this lens of Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot. Bitcoin has been kind of a great education for me for how kind of the world works and a lot of the things work. But yeah, I mean, probably, you would just deposit that in a checking account or something, right? And not even how much are you losing to inflation every year by just having it in something like that. So yeah, pretty crazy.
Exactly. And likewise, I've learned most everything I've known about finance from this industry. There's so much here that's positive.
Always learning. Well, I think that wraps it up. It's kind of been a slow news week, and we can just go enjoy our weekend.
Yeah. Before we do that, did we want to talk about or mention the SBTC we have withdrawals coming soon?
Yes. Yeah. SBTC withdrawals. Thank you for the reminder. Yes, they got announced. So that is going to happen on March 31st. So 1 week from Monday, this coming Monday. So we will be able to have, Bitcoin flowing, I guess not necessarily in the system yet because the cap is still up, but the cap is going to happen soon after that. But soon we'll have, Bitcoin sort of freely flowing between L1 and L2. And that's certainly a really big deal.
Pretty cool to see. Yeah. Happened overnight, but yeah, I'm glad we could touch on it.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that when it happens much more. It'll be very interesting to see how, I guess, low or how much, how many people withdraw versus how many people just kind of continue to hold on. That'll be an interesting kind of data point to keep an eye on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but certainly very important to be able to bring Bitcoin in and out of the system. So we need this. It's important to not have it be just a one-way thing. But yeah. Cool. Well, that wraps it up. Next week, we talked about it last week that we were celebrating a 1-year anniversary of the show. We're going to be doing that next week. Technically, the 22nd is the 1-year anniversary. So happy birthday to us tomorrow. But we'll be celebrating that next week once everybody is back in office. And who knows, maybe we'll give away some good for Bitcoin swag or do some fun stuff. So have to look forward to that next week. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining, and we will see you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.